So we're going to get into this talk, and I see the limited people that have come, which is perfect because we're at a high vibrational frequency here, and everyone's ascending really high. But this talk, we're going to get down to the basics of true ascension, true awakening, what we're doing here on this planet.
So Earth, this physical plane, Earth's not just a physical entity, but a living organism. Earth is undergoing a spiritual evolution alongside humanity. Earth is also a part of a larger cosmos, evolving. Earth is a place where human development is in a relationship between the physical and the spiritual realms.
Currently, as we know, Earth is ascending and changing her place in the galaxy. And with this is coming the new findings of what's in the Earth. They're uncovering them. What's new in the cosmic sky, there's new planets that are revealing themselves. So just as the human journey is one of death and rebirth, Earth is also changing her location. And so as we raise our consciousness, she's going and we should go with her because everything on Earth is changing. It's been in a state of change for quite some time. Some people say it happened around COVID, but it has been shifting and changing, and it's going to continue to pull us up into places that we are going to far reach beyond and reconnect to our place in the Milky Way galaxy. So be prepared for more time of revelation, things coming to light from a time when God created all of this. The human being is multi-layered. We have three basic bodies to us. The physical, which is the substance of our physical body. It's a manifestation of the soul and the spirit, not just the mechanical structure. We have the etheric body, which is our life and our vitality force that moves us through and wheels the body around. We also have our astral, which is our consciousness. This is the vital aspect of our human evolution, and it's connected to the spirit world. I'm sure you guys have been hearing these in different talks and consciousness talks on these 2-day event, but we are all saying basically the same thing.
So the human being, the soul, the eternal God aspect of us, the soul is the consciousness and the physical body is the vessel that holds that soul. The human being incarnates into life experiences to evolve its consciousness. The human being comes from a more spiritual state prior to incarnating, and the plan prior to becoming a human being. So we're going to talk about the plan later? Okay. You want to go ahead? This kind of...
So we have this purpose of life, like why are we here? It involves a deep engagement with the physical world, this material place where things manifest in form. It's also the understanding of our spiritual realities. We're going to get into the fact that we've been so inundated in this material world, and we're going to go further into that we've forgotten the spiritual inner life, the thread of connection that was supposed to be intact, that we forget in this amnesia, and we go through life. But we weren't always like that. There was a more spiritual time that we're going to reference. We used to be more spiritual before. And so now this is the time of remembering, we like to say. So this spiritual development of the soul ultimately becomes the whole purpose of life and reincarnation is to become a free and sovereign agent in the galaxies and the fabrics of life that exist beyond just this plane of existence. Now think about this for a second. We always refer to this as a practice here, because in order to grow our conscious to those higher states of being, there's a responsibility that comes with that. And so developing that and developing that richness to be attached to developing the soul in those ways is going to hold the other planes of existence intact. Can you imagine here, people say it's hard to be here. It's difficult. People are using their free will to do things that may not be so benefiting towards others. So the purpose of life, especially on this plane of existence, is to practice to gain a consciousness that is responsible out in the cosmic realm. Gaining the capacity to transcend suffering. This is a plane of duality that we live in on this plane of existence. And there is suffering. There's things that people are doing with their free will that causes harm towards others. So we are to transcend that suffering through the power of love that we have here. And overall, that's going to gain the consciousness of humanity.
So transcending the limitations of the material world. I mean, we all know it's okay to work hard, to gain a comfortable life. However, if it's an excessive pursuit of materialism, it can be detriment to our spiritual development, and it could lead to suffering. So duality, Julie talked about duality. It is an illusion that divides us, and that leads us to suffering, this divide. While non-duality is that interconnectedness, and it transcends the illusion of separateness. I did a documentary on tragedies, and it provides a catalyst for us for spiritual development. You know, a tragedy. It allows one to grow past personal limitations. Now, we can learn through joy and happiness, but tragedies do have a way of getting one's attention. And by transcending these tragedies, we can grow past our limitations.
A lot of people like to ask, why did this happen to me? Why did bad things happen to good people? This is the free will that we have. We have free will. Free will would not be free if there were limitations on it. And we have the freedom to do with that free will what we may. So some people are choosing to use that free will to harm or inadvertently, unknowingly harm another. So what we do with these tragedies when we find ourselves presented with it is to transcend it, to choose good anyway, to rise above the tragedy to a state of where you are holding a higher conscious state than the person who misqualified the light when it was in their awareness and in their gift of life. Some people misqualify it, not even realizing that's what they're doing.
So achieving the mastery over life, the inner transformation, cultivating, going within, not just study, intellectual training. So, you know, we can all go on our spiritual journey. We can learn and we can gain all this intelligence. But when true wisdom comes in is when we actually put it into action. So I see that that's important, you know, to learn, but actually to practice it. Sometimes it can be really difficult, mastering one's inner self and emotions and impulses. This is a big one, because if we can master our inner self, our emotions and impulses, do you see how we can no longer attach ourselves to this earth experience and be able to ascend to higher hierarchies? So moral development is really what we really want to talk about, is those stoic, but we'll get into that. But this moral development, you know, integrities, reverence, just building this moral, and we get into a little bit later about all the other virtues, but.
So mastery over oneself. And take a look at this picture here, and this is the moral character. Someone who is serene and confident. This is the way of the Stoic they used to reference. When someone says you're very stoic, this is developing a moral character. This is a good, well-balanced human being. Someone who takes full responsibility for their self, acts reasonably, accepts fate graciously, focuses on what you can control, grateful and calm. In today's world, if most people feel anxious, not calm. This is something we can cultivate. live in complete harmony. When we think of peace on earth, we think of harmony. That is getting along and connected to one another in a beautiful web. Kind and generous. Craig and I have this mission to not so much talk about the greed in the world, but to create a world that's charitable. Can you give instead of complain about how much people think and focus on greed? Focus on charity. It's one of the highest virtues you can do. It's above generosity. Charity is when you do it on behalf of all, not just one. So when you give, do you know you can do it with the intention that it goes out to all sentient souls, that they feel it? There's so many layers to this that we're talking about when we really want to awaken and ascend. It's limitless, really.
Yeah, I think the one that I really, really love is taking full responsibility of your life. That you're not a puppet. You're not a victim of God's circumstances. And a lot of the death and backers that I've worked with, they're the self-creation of their soul. So taking responsibility of your life and acting responsible and accepting the fate.
So how do we achieve mastery over life? Being able to distinguish between truth and illusion. This is discernment. This is something that we develop in our third chakra. Coming from within, testing our intuition, developing intuition, and getting back in touch with that inner guidance system that we all have to live in harmony with the world. It's really important for all of us we've been complaining about the things that are going on, and we're very good at stating what's wrong. But how many times can we now start to turn that into the new world that we want to see and start speaking it into creation? The importance of unwavering commitment to one's chosen path, even when faced with challenges or setbacks, not being wavered by external forces. These are those tragedies, these catalysts that we've all encountered, some of us more than others, death of a child, the loss of a job. These things are just catalysts that grow your conscious reaction to it. And you have power over this with a little bit of practice and cultivation.
Achieving mastery over life gets us closer to the divine. The practical training and thought develop the ability to understand and engage with the natural world and your senses and through your intellect. Understanding the unique intentions of others fosters an interconnectedness, and it promotes a better understanding of the world. So having a unique intention, understanding their path. Sometimes it's difficult. We want to say, hey, this, that, the other, judge, Just understanding that unique intention of others, that will give you that interconnectedness. Of course, we want to transcend the ego because the ego can obscure the true spiritual perception, like humility, compassion, and a willingness to learn from others. We see it time and time again. Not listening to another. Maybe perhaps we could actually learn from another's perspective. So, transcend the ego. I know sometimes that can be pretty difficult.
Key practices and principles for mastery. Develop compassion. Compassion is not just a human emotion, but a fundamental aspect of human evolution. Compassion is a divine force that emanates from the spirit world and connects us to the divine. It's a deep understanding and feeling of the suffering of others and the desire to alleviate that suffering. Love and compassion are intertwined. Love is the foundation for compassion, and compassion is the manifestation of love. One of the things that I notice in the part of the world that we live in the United States is there's a lot of homeless people. And it's so common that people just blow right by because maybe they deserved or put themselves in that position. And it's interesting to just be the observer of how unconnected we are to another's suffering. And a lot of people will say, well, what am I supposed to do about it? But what I want to teach you is that you have an intention with your action, and that's compassion. So compassionate action is whatever you do with a heartfelt intention towards that person, even if it's giving them money, food, or an offering or a blessing. If you do it powered by the heart, that is going to, all boats rise. You get liberated and they get liberated on some level. And those levels are what change your consciousness through life.
So take responsibility of your words, your actions, your emotions. It's an energy, and it does go somewhere. Unfortunately, not taking responsibility has become a bit rampant in today's society. It's being mindful. So we use restraint when we want to say things that are negative or judgmental or not nice. Reverence, which is basically having a deep respect for the other person, regardless of judgment. Just respect. They're on their path. And taking the responsibility. Take responsibility of your choice, of your words, your actions. They do go somewhere. And we are energy. We're water. Yep.
We just wanted to show the slide one more time because these are the stoic that we can develop in ourselves. Forgiveness. When you give forgiveness, you're performing one of the most powerful deeds a human being can do. And the forgiveness doesn't just pertain to this plane of existence, but it does transcend to the other planes of existence where maybe you weren't able to give the forgiveness when they were in their body, but their astral body and their consciousness receives all of it. You sacrifice your self-interest, allowing the other to get the help that they need, and this fosters a more harmonious world. They deserved it is a harmful act just in itself. So if you can transcend to an understanding of allowing them the grace, then you are aligning your soul with the divine source who does this for us continuously.
Atonement. We wanted to make t-shirts called Atonement Now because you can do all this in this lifetime. We don't have to keep coming back over and over and over. We could make a good, solid effort of atonement. Now, if you do evil or harm another, you've incurred an obligation to make it right. So stop doing that. Make right all your wrongdoings. It's like a thing. If you just something triggers you, you're like, oh, I remember that kid back in 4th grade or something. Right then and there, make that atonement. If you can call them up, great. If you can't, speak to the soul level and apologize or do whatever you can. This world involves actions to repair, like with an apology. But doing it with love, combined with that apology, it becomes supercharged. If you just say, you know what, I'm sorry. But if you can genuinely evoke love, I am truly sorry. The energy comes off so effectively. You've done your part. You've done your atonement. So atonement can be a lifelong process of trying to go over all your life experiences and making things right. You need to do it now. So that's why it's important for atonement now. Do it now. You can. That's the beauty of this place, this earth. It's such a wonderful place to practice.
We've been hearing that we're going to have a life review on the other end. And if that's true, you're going to see all of these things anyways. So one of the things you could do is at the end of night before you sleep, which we all get this every day to go back into our subconscious or astral life. You can kind of review your life with yourself at the end of the day and review and learn. And this is capturing every day you have here to grow and to evolve. You don't have to wait to the end. We blow by so many days and we probably go, I don't even know if I got anything out of that day. But you can with just do a simple play life backward from the night to the morning and get to know yourself. See what you did, what you didn't do. You'll be surprised what comes up. You'll be surprised what your consciousness lets you know that you might have missed in the day. It'll give it to you.
Judgment. So it's such a loose term, judgment. But developing a sound analysis based on truth and critical thinking, and avoid the negative judgment. Strive to see the best in others. We practice this a lot, which is here we are with a person that is just so different than us. They seem to be just so odd. Like, why do they do that? So instead of judging and saying, oh, this person, this, that, and the other, is to scan and try to figure out, oh my gosh, I didn't realize that they just have this wonderful perspective on something. Go with it. Find that beauty in the person. It helps you stop that cycle of judgment. Develop moral views on right and wrong. Moral views. Never judge others or be affected when someone is judging you. I mean, how many times have we find ourselves judging someone, but then we're affected when someone else is judging us. Again, just be calm and it's okay. They're on their path. They're going to say what they're going to say. Align your life with the principles of justice and wisdom. Now, these are virtues that Aristotle, Socrates. Yeah, Aristotle and Socrates, we're going to get into
The four virtues.
the four virtues.
So justice is always considering the right of others. It's not just about the rules and laws of cultivating a sense. It's about cultivating a sense of fairness and compassion and an understanding of our interactions with others. Promote a sense of unity and cooperation while respecting the individual differences. Don't allow your opinions and judgments to interfere with justice. Justice is fairness, which means that you have a right and I have a right. And when we allow that, that creates harmony.
And sovereignty.
And sovereignty. Mm-hmm. So these are the ways that if everyone starts to practice or reevaluate, that we start to create more of these waves in the world that I think a lot have forgotten to tap into.
Courage. Courage, if we think about this time that we're in, we need to really muster up the courage. Having the strength to embrace something that may be painful is courage. It's going to, it's going to be painful, but developing that virtue of courage, having the strength to stand up for your sovereignty and the liberation for yourself, but also others. That's beautiful about courage. Courage enables the practice of other virtues such as kindness and truthfulness. And courage also allows you to stay on your path, stay on one's path, not allowing anyone to derail you. Sometimes it takes a lot of courage to not be swayed or bothered by someone else.
Temperance or moderation. When people say that someone's too materialistic, this is where we get to practice moderation, self-control and discernment over our thoughts, feelings, and actions through reason. Reason's one of the highest emotional states. It's above love because you can love someone, but can you actually apply reasonable moderation when you're called upon it in the face of differences? A good practice of temperance develops that moral strength when you need it, because when we're going to have an interaction and we're going to fall right back into unconsciousness. It's not about avoiding pleasures completely, but rather knowing right amount, right time, right way.
Wisdom, integrating your knowledge with compassion and action. Gaining knowledge through experiences and then applying it to everyday situations. Again, I talked about this earlier. You're gaining this knowledge through this experience, but we need to apply it to every situation. Cultivating devotion and respect within all experiences. Cultivating devotion and respect with all experiences. Transforming the pain to understanding. So if we have pain, is there any way we could look into it as, I want to transform this into an understanding and not sit in that pain?
The path to spiritual enlightenment. A deep analysis of your mindful state. I'm going to ask you some questions, and I just want you to feel into them. What thoughts arise in you, and what are they saying? Do you have a tape playing? Or can you just be present when you're in a space with someone or in a situation? Can you be the observer? Or do you always have something telling you about what's going on? What are your thoughts about others in the world? Do you have a genuine interest in others? Are you empathetic? How pure is your heart? Do you give love freely without conditions?
Having a genuine interest in others, that one just really kind of blew me away when I first started to think about that. I remember when I was younger, I would just have people talking, and I was finding myself just thinking about what I'm supposed to say next. Stop. It took me a while to stop and say, this person is speaking to me. What is going on? What do they want? What I want to learn all about it. So just actually tuning in and having a genuine interest in every single person you encounter.
Are you in control of your emotions, or do your emotions control you? This is where we exercise free will. We do have the choice to choose the emotional state that we represent ourselves. And this one, I like to tell people, some people have not even spent any time in peace or serenity because they're so chaotic and they don't have time and they're very anxious. Things make them upset easily. When someone that you know and you feel into them and they're always angry, they're just practicing anger. They're very good at it. So when you leave an imprint, when you leave a room, and people have a feeling about you, and you know that you can leave an angelic presence, you can leave a graceful, lingering part of your being when you leave a room. You can choose this and develop it. Did you do all that you could when you had the moment to do it? Do you have regrets? Because you can do something about a feeling of, I wish I would have told them. I wish that I would have had this. I would just say, you have this consciousness that goes beyond. You can set with that grandmother or that person, any situation you think you have limits on, and you can actually give it to them now. If we have a life review on the other side, this is something I learned when my son transitioned. Craig was the one who pointed it out to me, but he said, you're doing a life review in stream. When someone passes and you start having these flood of memories, you're actually reviewing pieces of their life when they're reviewing it. And it's so beautiful to liberate or to be active in those memories, to give interaction to that person that floats into your mind or the person that's passed, to give that love or to speak that from that heart, that peace that you think in the argument that you had and you just wish it would have went different, to play it out as if it did. There is no such thing as time. It's a concept we have here, and it's a limited time offer. If you want to look at life here right now, it's a limited time offer.
So developing inner growth. It takes a dedicated practice, meditation, contemplation, inner review daily. Before you go to bed, I think we touched on this. Do a life review every single day. Contemplation, that was one thing that I was new to, but I do it anyway. I didn't know that this was part of it. But cultivating the virtues that we talked about are extremely important. Integrating spiritual knowledge into daily life. Instead of the material world, focusing on the earth and focusing on our day to day, integrate that spiritual knowledge into our life. Partially in the spiritual, divining it, and going into your everyday life. Become more conscious, responsible, and compassionate. Contribute consciously to the spiritual evolution of the collective consciousness. We all know that we are here all together, but there is a collective consciousness out there that people are putting out, and it's creating our evolution. So contributing to our collective consciousness, the whole global earth, is very, very important.
Following our intuition and divining it, the way we call it, little quotes, divining it. So you have this intuition where you follow your gut instinct, but then there's the next step, which is divine it. Check it with the divine will. Make sure you're aligned with the highest good. Develop the ability to listen to your inner guidance and your intuition, and then meditating and asking, is this truth? That's the divining piece. Make sure your choices are divined with the highest good of all. Making sure that you're in alignment with the divine and not being swayed by outside false influences. This is just being able to follow that gut instinct. And I like to teach, for me, when you're faced with a decision in this duality, choices, I always go for the one that pulls you up and out. Anything that expands you goes up and out. Anything that is not in your highest good pulls you down and in your body. Keeps you small, limited, constricted. You want to be expansive, aware, and intentional for all.
Love, it has to have no conditions, and it has to be given freely. That's just like God, given freely. Love is the foundation of creation, and without it, nothing would exist. So that is part of our co-creator job, to incorporate creating with love. Love is a wellspring of creative power. When you're in that love state, you can create. I know when I had my conversations with Buddha, he said, love is an art form to me. And I didn't quite get what he was saying, but there's this creativeness. How can we love creatively? Instead of just, I love you, but just figure out how to get creative, which is going to bring up all these different wonderful attributes, and it's going to be felt so much stronger. God's supreme attribute is unconditional love. Love should flow into all aspects of our life. And Julie and I, we like to refer to the, what is it, the heart?
Loving Command Center.
Sorry. Love. We create these things. Loving Command Center. So when we're talking and we're doing, is it coming from our loving command center? Are we divining it?
The other thing is, what's interesting is in religious context, they would bow their head to pray. You bow your head because you're getting your mind to sync up with your heart. And so one of the things that you do, there's 8 inches between your mind and your heart, an 8-inch pathway. When those two are connected, it creates a spark in the middle of your heart. And this is where miracles happen. There's an actual, when people get miracles, it's because the mind and the heart are in sync. So what I always like to do is make sure that I am leading from my heart and that I'm thinking from that global middle chakra, connecting to everything. And then I entrain my mind to be from a loving aspect. And so sometimes we can get all mind, And all we got to do is drop down. And some people aren't even familiar with the space of their heart. So that you can bring your consciousness into this area and you can explore it and get to know it and expand it. Spiritual development, seeking understanding of the spiritual world and then understanding your role in it. Developing your spiritual senses. I'm sure in the last 2 days, you might have heard different ways to develop this. You can use pendulums, kinesiology, develop your clairs. All the mediums are very popular, and I could see why. It feels good to feel and hear and know the afterworld. But you are meant to develop these yourself. You have inner hearing, inner seeing, inner knowing. And all it does is taking your attention, your unlimited, expansive awareness into truly developing the art of listening to others. You will hear their soul. You will go past the conversation you think you have with them, and you will see and hear their soul tell you exactly what they need and what they're experiencing. And then you get to practice that compassion or that giving, that alleviating or blessing. If you can alleviate the suffering in someone, or if you can just give them a blessing, bestow some goodness upon them. Increase your illumination of light. This is what Jesus did. The idea of Jesus, even if you don't believe, it is this illumination of compassion and love. And through that, you get what is called a light body here on earth. Buddha did it. Enlightenment. When all of your moral character, your outer astral body, your soul aspect is embodied fully in this small physical being of you. And it is in sync and in harmony with itself and the outer world around you. You will illuminate your presence. And do not underestimate that light, that spark of illumination that you have, because it is seen from the souls when they look down upon earth. There's lights, individual lights shining all over. It's a real thing. And it can be seen by those that are in the astral.
Establishing communication with higher beings. Now, of the Death and Back series that I did, I noticed that you can establish a communication now with the higher beings, whether it's Buddha or Jesus or any Mahatma Gandhi. It could be any one of these. Well, you can start to establish a relationship with them. It takes a little practice, but you just have to ask. They're there at any given moment. They are ready to help you. A spirit like Jesus is in the etheric realm, which is all around us. They're in their etheric body. They are there. Don't be afraid to ask. They're willing to help you, but you just need to step forward and ask. So how does the afterlife affect the soul's enlightenment? So we have here, which is the basic energies of how, like, if you look at the bottom, like shame, guilt, grief, fear, it's a resonating energy of what? What is fear? 100. And these are very unfortunate places to be. But we can get into courage and start getting into willingness and acceptance. And you can see how the numbers just jump. And that frequency is where you're going to end up in the afterlife. So if you are in a peaceful state, you're vibrating at such a high frequency, that is the experience you will have, and that is the afterlife you will be. But if you're in chaos and guilt and fear, and you can see that's what's you're going to attract to you is that kind of an experience. So it's our job to get past suffering, get into flow, get into enlightenment, into these higher states. And as you can see, it just goes higher and higher and higher, up to, unconditional love, grace, truth.
Part of the afterlife, please do not misconstrue that you are going to be in complete, there's no place of hell. Unfortunate, think it's the opposite of fortunate. So your conscious state of awareness is yours. And there is so much support and an endless field of grace. God's infinite love is in these other realms. And you're privy to it. You're a drop in it when you cross over. So our part is to develop our consciousness so that we are more aware of what's available to us. So when we put this together, the frequencies that we have been able to discover with instrumentation have a frequency rate. We are vibrational frequencies, and these transcend into colors and waves of energy that are perceived in realms. And that makes up the fabric of other realms that we will find our etheric body in. So this plane of existence, this third dimensional reality that we are in, is a place where we get to practice the physical manifestation of knowing ourselves to be co-creators. So there is no judgment. We've covered that. There is a place that we have to expand and to know ourselves, to know our true potential, and to create in this world. And then when we leave the physical plane, there's other planes, but when we go over to the astral, we have all that we have gathered here, all of the moral development. So what we do is we like to get you prepared for a good afterlife, to create worlds that you want to be a part of. So if you look at this, people will no longer say, I don't know what my purpose is. Your purpose is to know yourself as a creator, as a free and sovereign, beautiful agent, and to exercise that by interacting with each and other aspect of God.
So you can, in this lifetime, ascend past the pain and suffering of this world and enter into the God realms. It is totally possible. And we know, like, if we look at somebody like a Jesus or something, he did it all in one life. How amazing would that be, that we don't have to keep come back into these cyclical karmic loops of over and over, where we don't seem to really transcend it. You can do that all in this life right here, actually. And if you take into consideration the time that we are in, this new epoch that the earth is shifting to, it's a little easier now than ever before. There's a higher vibration. Things you can manifest light a lot quicker and easier. People are experiencing clairs. I can hear voices. I can smell a past loved one. These things are all available to us, and you can do it in this lifetime and enter into the God realms. But it takes practice. It takes work. And like all the other stuff that we had talked about.
And then some of us will say, well, so our purpose is to just get out of here? Well, not necessarily, because there's a saying in the Buddhist belief that you would take a vow to keep coming here as much as it takes to have every soul awaken. So some come here just to be of service, just to wake others up, to practice that selflessness, that all go back to the light, and that one would not feel complete if all they did was evolve out of here knowing that they left a piece of themselves behind. So that was a lot to digest, but we are here if you have any questions, and we hope that if anything that you have had a moment to awaken to something, to spark a remembering to your journey, to illuminate the light that you have in you just a little bit brighter.
Does anybody have any questions that they would like to ask? Put a microphone out there if anybody has any.
That was really good.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you. That was really great, as was your last talks. And I guess just at that moment, I think you mentioned about there is free will at that time, whether to return or not. And is there any pressure applied? Is it all a benevolent sort of energy in terms of coming back? Do you think there's any malevolentness? There's a little bit of traction being given to the soul trap sort of idea. I just sort of wonder, how, what sort of influences or encouragement or otherwise from any entities or beings to come back around plays out at that time.
I think what the self-analysis, I noticed the death and backers that I interviewed, they all said the same thing, that they went through the life review, and then the ones that actually transitioned and then never came back, they're going to go on a journey of self-evaluation. And really, there is time to learn in the afterlife. We can, but it's a process of just continuing to self-analyze and what we did. But with the life review, I don't know if you guys are familiar with the life review, it's an experience of our life, and we get to experience exactly what the other person felt and all the ripple effects. So we get to live in that, and sometimes that can be cool. That can be really very helpful to learn, is to see how it's your actions impacted someone else. I know there are theories about this auto reload, and then there are the ones where it's basically it's a plan. We want to come back at a certain time, and we want to do a little bit better. And a lot of the ones that are in the afterlife are looking at these higher realms, going, I want to be there. I want to do that. So that's what Jesus had told me. It's murat. It means that they want to come and atone and do these things because they see those higher realms. And I know you probably don't remember, but you visited some of these places. You guys have seen some of this, and you want it, and you want to go to these nirvanas or these heavens or something like that. And it's such a blissful state. So we do the work here, and that's why this is such a wonderful place, because it's all practice. We get to practice. I get to practice with you. You get to practice with me. Isn't that cool that you can do that? So that's why, some people call it a learning school. I like to say it's a place to practice all this stuff.
Earth school of some sort.
Yeah.
Just lastly, in terms of that amnesia effect, I guess, in terms of the transmigration of the soul, do you think there's any connection at all in regards to the sleep process, given that we spend a third of our life in sleep, and then we lucky to remember sort of 30 seconds of 7 or 8 hours of sleeping of our dreams? It feels like there's a link there with that amnesia effect each and every day, in a sense, with perhaps each time we're reborn. It's a fascinating, concept, this amnesia effect.
Yeah, the astral travel.
So on that amnesia effect, that's what we're trying to do when we say wake up to full consciousness, is to be awake and to have full conscious awareness. So when we have that amnesia, we're still blocking our aspect, our connection to source and to all that is and to what's possible. And the more that you develop your attention, you put your attention, focused attention on what you're doing, give undivided attention to the person in front of you, focus and cultivate attention on the phenomenal plane. I think someone spoke earlier about the phenomenal is really the normal. Then you'll start to remember more of your dreams, because when you go to sleep, you do astral project. The body rests and rejuvenates, but the spirit goes and is free to explore. So we can break down this veil that we have, this amnesia, and that's why this is called the awakening, because when you wake up, you will remember and you will continue, and then you carry that with you when you cross over at the gate of death. You go over more consciously awake. You're well prepared for the astral, because you're starting to merge the 3 bodies that you have. I don't know if it was in this talk, but we talk about the 3 bodies. And when you think of the illumination of Christ or the Buddha nature, they were truly illuminated, meaning that they were consciously awake, embodied, without fear, attachment, anxiety. They were able to go to sleep and be awake there. So you can reach enlightenment and walk fully awake, even when you sleep. The body will rest, but you will remember and retain back. One of the things you can do is create a dream journal, keep it by your bed, and put the intention to remember your dreams, and start slowly writing what you get, and you will if you choose, you will fully remember where your astral body goes.
You know, I think we talked about, you may have heard the thinning of the veil. You know, it's getting thinner. And, you know, we saw the rainbow colored charts, you know, and I learned this from the parents that I interviewed, the 17 parents of lost children. Of the ones that were actually communicating with their children, were in a pretty good place. They were in a pretty peaceful state. They weren't angry at the drunk driver. They were at peace, you know. I spent a lot of time with one father who his child was killed by a driver, just drove right into in the middle of the day. And, you know, Ernie is a big guy. He's just, I said, Ernie, okay, so what did you do? He said, I walked over, opened up the door, and I gave her a big hug. And I was like, oh my gosh, Ernie. He saw his child in 3 days. Full body operation. The child just went, I'm good, Dad. Now the wife, Craig, how could somebody do that in the middle of the day? What was she thinking, you know? She didn't have any communication. So we talked about the rainbow levels of energies. And the children told me, because there was this group of parents, I would go and hang out with them, and they would have these group gatherings and stuff like that. And the children were saying, Craig, there's this density that is the veil. It's dense, it's thick. They're trying to take their super high vibration and come down to this low, dense energy of earth. And if all that stuff is in the way, there's no communicating. So that's why it's good. So if you want to thin the veil, guys, start working on love, compassion, start getting out of victimhood and stuff like that. You're just gonna start to communicate. I mean, it's just the more we do this, the more we practice, it gets thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner. Before you know it, we believe that in this life, this veil will come down to a very thin, where we'll be able to communicate freely. But that's called, you know, the fifth dimensional, sixth dimension, seventh, 8 dimensions, and get out of this third of duality. Is there anybody else that has a question? How much time do we have, honey?
Yeah, I'd just like to, I've been here the last 2 days and I've heard all about, you know, the human aspects and everything about, you know, the soul and that. What about animals?
Aha, yes. Yes, animals are the exact amazing unconditional love. I mean, they just love you, and they don't have any conditions. Earth, you know, with humans, we put all these conditions, but they just exuberate and are healing. I mean, we talked about the healing powers that they're starting to implement with horses, you know, where they can actually, you know, maybe you want to talk about this one.
Yeah, so the interesting thing about animals, too, that we're seeing on the planet is that there's a big movement for vegan and non-eating them. And please forgive me.
Not eating them.
Not eating them. So it's starting to awaken the consciousness in the animals to bring about a harmonic resonance with us again. And so, you know, like horses are now working with the healers in these centers, and they're holding heart frequency and creating transmissions of spontaneous healing alongside a vegan practitioner. So there's things that we are going to uncover. Remember, we talked about this earth changing her position, because the consciousness, even though some of us think that it's not awake, we have actually awakened consciousness through a lot of us that are speaking on this and holding conventions and manifestation forums like this one right here that has actually lifted the consciousness of humanity. So with that, and some of the movements that have been created in a compassionate way, such as someone who takes the choice of being vegan, creates a level of compassion in action in the way that they're portraying it, and the animals are responding to it. There's something that does happen if you choose not to eat meat, and that is you will become more aware of the animal kingdom. It starts to come around you. It starts to permeate your world more so. These are just choices that you can make at your time when you're ready. Some believe in it and some don't, and that's okay. You never have to push yourself into an evolutionary jump before you're ready. And the beautiful thing is to allow others to evolve like a beautiful lotus petal at their own awakening, that own petal development that they unfold at the time that they're ready. But some of the animals are really responding to the compassion and to the unification, because life force energy is in an animal just like it's in you and just like it's in the plant. And these are the three kingdoms that we have here that are in harmony on planet Earth, and they respond to one another. I'm sure you guys have seen some of the things out there about the trees and how they're interconnected by their roots in a communication system. These are the things that we're starting to develop because our consciousness as one is starting to be ready for the higher level of understanding. Just think of how unlimited we are, how many barriers we're breaking down on what we thought was scientific evidence or things that we knew for a long time. We're starting to know that there's more. We're uncovering different connections in these kingdoms.
So do animals have souls? Will they be with us in the afterlife? Or they go to their own place?
I totally believe so. I know that when I've seen that they're, when someone transitions, they're met with their loved ones, and sometimes it is an animal that they've loved. So yeah, I
When you start to realize that it's all the same consciousness, it's all God revealing itself in the form of another. So these level of conscious states can go as high as unity consciousness. So one aspect that appears as a grandmother or a dog or a horse is really the same aspect that you are in a beautiful creation intertwining with itself. And this is probably big for some to understand, but there is some sort of we are all one. And so you do get to meet yourself in the afterlife with all aspects, especially the ones that you bonded to. I like to talk about the golden hearts, the golden bonds that connect us through love. I see them as energetic golden flecks through one heart to another. And the more that we build that up, a really big bandwidth of loving well all aspects that we have, you get to see that on the other side. So if you're bonded with a dog or a cat in a loving, connected way, you will see that beautiful representation.
I'm actually bonded with a lot of animals. I've got hundreds of reptiles.
Yeah.
Yes, and I rescue them as well.
Beautiful.
Out in the development sites,
Yeah.
where they would naturally get killed and all that, and I'm out there rescuing them and relocating them and give them a chance at life. So, it's
Yes.
awesome. We're gone for quite some time from the United States, a good 3 weeks, and we have someone staying at our house, and our little Bailey cat. He's I know his color, his eyes, and everything like that. And we're getting these photographs, and he's just, where are you guys? So Julie and we tend to slip into a meditative state and connect with his soul and say, dude, we're going to be home soon. Just let my cousin have her time with you. He's a little teacher. He's taught me so many wonderful things. We
actually had someone stay with our cat. She's like, do you want me to check on him like every 3 days? We're like, no, can you stay at our house and be there with him?
Every single day? Because
She's like, okay. And then we get a picture and she says, oh my gosh, he's right here with me and he gives me so much love. I'm like, yes, he's a sentient being. And we have bonded very well with him and he knows how to love.
Thank you.
Yeah, he's adorable. Does anybody else have any other questions?
There too.
She's got a...
Hi. Just a general question. In this lifetime, how do you know what your purpose in life is, like specifically, as far as what you're meant to really be doing to build the consciousness, help everybody, etc.?
Well, the very general belief that I have is that we all have the same purpose, and that is to interact right where you are in the stream and learn to develop your callings and go where you're led. So the more that you develop your intuition and you engage in life by following what is true to you, you will be led. And so your life will be right where you are. A lot of people think that they're meant to do this or to do that, and maybe they will leave their legacy here, but really life is meant to be lived, engaging in every person, place, and thing. And you have gifts that you've brought into this life, and those can be given and bestowed as blessings upon others. And so when you follow your true calling, the things that spark your light, I heard once that if you go back to when you're a child, whatever it is that you said that you wanted to do that. But you can also just ask your higher self to reveal it to you, and then trust that you will put that into action. So you can find what it is that you have to be of service to others, and do that by just simply going within. But life is just meant to be lived and experienced right where you are, doing what you have and developing that connection to what is in your reality. And if we don't like the reality that we don't like the apartment, the job, then go within and follow what you're given. Find what your true self says to you, and then allow it to manifest. And then when you're there, do your practice developing these higher virtues and these higher states.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Just wait a second. Well, how fabulous and what a magnificent way to finish here on stage one, unfortunately, at the Awaken Afterlife Convention. Craig and Julie McMahon, it's very clear to me we're in the presence of wonderful thinkers, and you remind me that our life is multifaceted, multidimensional, and while we've had some brilliant times today with our mediums on stage and a lot of thinking brain learning as well, I can't think of a better way to finish than to really go to the heart of what it's all about. So once again, sincere thank you for coming to Australia and sharing your time and insights with us. Please thank them both. Lovely. Thank you very much.